I've been thinking about this for a while for two reasons. One, because I'm plagued by my thoughts and I can't refuse to get rid of them, and they're like a bad loop tape in my brain since I have crazy memory. And two, because one of my buddies is a big time bird watcher. And so shout out to Ethan because he is legit. My friend Adele is also a bird watcher and she is legit. And I just marvel that they know so much about birds and just can look at a bird that's hanging out in a tree and be like, oh, that's a warbler. This is a cardinal. That's a dove. This is a seagull, like whatever. And know, like, what's that? Kingdom, phylum, genus, the whole nine yards. So God bless the bird people. But, they're very into different birdies and can identify them and stuff, much like I am to sharks. So I get it. Bird is to shark as tweet is to, I guess, chomp. But there's this one little birdie that makes cuts as story worthy, and it's a while ago actually. It's 1996, and I guess I've been thinking about it lately because it's just one of those things where when you have like a trying time in your life. You think of other trying times, and I've just been juggling a lot of things lately, and I thought, okay, this is nothing compared to what you went through that time, so just shut up and get through it, and you kind of snap yourself out of it, and, and I did, and yeah, hooray, so just kind of looking backwards, uplifting situation, because history can teach you a lot of what not to do again, or maybe what to do in terms of, how much or how little you're going to react. And in this case, again, 1996, I was getting ready to come out of college, round one, and it was my undergrad, and it was a week before graduation. So it's like very early May, and I was, in a situation where I triple majored, which is crazy. So I had English and Spanish and psychology, and I had a couple of certifications and minors. So I really squeezed everything I could out of my college education and got like tons and tons of worth out of it. And in 4 years, I was able to do a lot. And I went to school summer, winter, spring, and fall. And I didn't do a fifth year. I just, I did a lot of extra courses, and I took classes over the summer and any little like nook and cranny and winter session or whatever I could. And my grades were solid. I knew I was ready to come out. And there's always like a ceremony or a meeting, I should say, with each department. So, if you're engineering, which I clearly was not, or nursing, which again, I clearly was not, I was big in liberal arts, but whatever your school was, your college would meet, and all the deans and all the professors that were full professors would meet and have a meeting about every kid that was graduating, or every person, I should say. A lot of adults graduated with me too. And what you would recommend, yay or nay, that they're good to go. Their stuff was turned in, and it's really more of a formality. I didn't even know what happened behind the scenes until this day. I got a heads up from one of my absolute favorite professors who I'm still in touch with now. And I'm like a shadow of what he was. I aspire to be as wonderful a teacher as him. And he called me and he was like, got a little problem. One of the guys is really upset with you. And it was another professor that I was very close to. And for personal reasons, his, not mine, it's a silly story. It was an odd thing because we had a mutual friend who was one of the women that worked in one of the offices. And I was very, very involved in college as I was in high school. So no surprise there with my so quiet self. Yeah, right. I'm like the picture poster child for extroversion. So, I was running the yearbook at one point. I was editor-in-chief there, and then I was on the media advisory committee, and I was in charge of the radio station. So I was always busy. I was always around people, and I was always around a lot of the offices and activities office and whatnot. I knew a lot of the deans, and I knew a lot of the staff. So one of the women that was actually getting her college degree, she was an adult, but she was getting her college degree while, working there. They often will offer classes to students that are working there or the employees' children. I knew her well, and she would basically, I came to know all this after the fact, had dated this one dean that I knew who had been long divorced. And, like I said, we were adults and nothing strange. And like, it didn't work out. So that was like 2 years prior. I was a sophomore. So here I am, flash forward, I'm a senior. And the week before graduation, he felt the need to bring up things that had happened in developments over the last 2 years. Basically, from sophomore till senior year, this other professor who was great had started dating this woman on the staff, and they would eventually end up getting married. Well, the year prior, while I was a junior, they asked me to DJ the event and MC it, which of course I was more than happy to do. And I love them both, so I was honored to be there and be a part of it. And although this original professor was invited, he chose not to go and was very, very bitter. Okay, none of this has anything to do with me, but how sad is it that a subjective backstory like this could play into what you would hope would be completely subjective academia? So I noticed a difference toward me. I noticed that even though he was a dean and we were very close, he was just a little more critical of my papers, or he was just a little more difficult when I had to sign into a class, or he was just a little colder when talking. He still spoke to me, but our relationship was different, and I certainly hadn't altered it in any way. But I didn't know if he was upset, sick, something else bothered him, whatever. And I tried talking to him straight up because that's how I am. And he was, oh no, I'm fine, blah blah. But we all know what fine stands for. So I just, yeah, okay, so I blew it off. Your problem, not mine. I'm rubber and you're glue. Whatever bounces off of me sticks to you. So I didn't think anything of it. Well, then here's the week before graduation, and I get a heads up from a totally third-party professor who has nothing to do with this. He was one of my language guys. And he's like, I don't think that the dean put you on approval. He was the only one at the table who didn't, and he never really offered a reason. But you can request, not a hearing, but information, like time to gather information and do some sort of investigation and see if all your ducks are in a row. I knew I was good to go. I knew I had not so much as a library book that I needed to return. My tuition was paid. My grades were done. I had all feedback. And, senior year, you're doing a lot of, in my case, student teaching. So that was its own entity, and that was finished. And you also do your senior projects, which I had completed all of mine and all of my extra classes that I chose to take well in advance. So I wasn't waiting on any grades or anything. So what could possibly hold me up? And I already had the feedback. So if I had all my A's, hello, what's the problem? Well, I finally get the notice from the secretary that I need to appear to talk with him because he wasn't satisfied, is how it was put, with my input and with all of my work. And I wasn't even in a class with him at the time, so I don't know what work you're talking about, buddy. So I thought, you know what, you get more with honey than vinegar. I'll just go, I'll meet with him, I will talk to him, I'll bring every piece of information I have. And at the time, we were just starting with the internet and just starting with email, so most things were still on paper, and that was pretty standard. So I liked pen and paper. You could prove it a little more easily. It wasn't like all got lost in cyber world. And I had all my stuff, and I got up early. He wanted to meet me at 8:30 in the morning, which is not my speed, especially when I was just finished classes and getting ready to, be off. And we had a thing called Bridge Week, where it was the week between graduation, finishing classes and graduation, post-finals. And it was for seniors. And there were events every day. We had picnics. We would go out with our sister schools. We would have, they'd have different things at night. We had a campus bar, and they would have a thing for us there. And we had a dinner. We had a commencement ball. Every day was a different thing. And a lot of families, I was local, obviously, but a lot of families had to come in from out of state and stuff. So it really gave kids a week to bring in their friends and fam to be able to experience everything nearby and on campus. And there was formal dinners, and we also there was the Nightingale ceremony for the nurses and the military ceremony for the ROTC, and there was all different academic ceremonies and services for people that were getting commissioned or acquiring this, or honors colloquiums and such. So colloquia, I should say. So a lot was going on, and I just felt like, although I was a part of it, something of it was kind of being taken away from me because I was worried about this. So it was Thursday morning of that week that I had to meet, and I was nervous. And my mom was up, and I was staring out my kitchen window. And I have always been a paranoid character when it comes to, will they, won't they? Is this going to happen? Is it not? What's my fate going to be? And my mother, God bless her, is very, very, very faithful. My mother has absolutely no doubt in any situation. It's just all going to be okay. It's just all going to work out. It's all going to be okay. I don't care what horrible thing it is. There's no question in her mind. And I just again, I'm like a shadow of her. I just wish that I could acquire that level of faith, someday. But it's just not even disputable in her mind. Like it's going to be whatever it is, but it's all going to be okay. And I can't quite always get there sometimes. I can't quite always get to that thought. And I was freaking out. And, she gave me a hug and a kiss and she said, it's going to be okay. And it'll all be fine. And he's going to look at you and all your stuff and knows you. And no matter what he thinks or whatever nonsense that he's upset about, none of that had anything to do with you. And if it has to get ugly, it gets ugly. And we just point out that this is a personal thing and it has nothing to do with you. But it shouldn't have to, because if he's a good person inside, or he realizes what he's doing to you inside because of him, then he, to be a good man, has to right his wrong. Which, yeah, that's all great in theory, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen. And I'm kind of arguing back with Mom, saying like, yeah, I know that's what should happen, but that's like your perfect world, and people are nasty, and people don't always do what they're supposed to do, and I'm being as negative as possible. And at that moment, I looked out my window. We were both standing in the kitchen at our sink, and we have like a little clothes hanger outside, like a little clothes tree, and it has little lines on it to hang the laundry, and we don't always use it. But a little teeny brown bird, just a plain little bird. I guess he's a finch. I'd have to ask Ethan and Adele. But this little bird landed, tiny little guy, and he landed right at the closest little wire that you could hang clothes on, looking at us. And he kind of was like, squeak, squeak, chirp, chirp, and he was just doing a bird, looking around, doing the weird head bob thing. And he stood there for a couple of minutes, and it was as if he was looking and talking to us. And my mom, being superstitious Italian, my mother and faithful, looked up and said, see, right there. It's all the proof you need. It's all going to be fine. I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, the little birdie. I said, what about the little birdie? He's cute, I'll grant you, but okay, what about him? He has nothing to do with me going to school. She's like, yes, he does. That's God's way of remaining anonymous. He sent you this little birdie, like a little messenger, to let you know that it's all going to be okay and nothing's going to be bad. It's all going to work out. He's a little birdie, and it's a little sign of hope. It's a little sign of life. It's all going to be okay. And he's letting you know to calm down. Now, where that came from, because I know in my mom's mind, that made total sense. She completely believed it. And, it wasn't like a black bird, a dead bird. And I've had some other superstitious tales out there that you may have caught on various platforms that I've done, because I've definitely mentioned this with different luck, if you will, or different things that could happen and unfold because of birds or near birds or superstitiously connected to birds. But in this case, I just was really fighting it. And she said, no, you're going to be fine. You'll see. That's all I needed. Like, that's extra proof for me. So you relax. Gave me another hug, said good luck, don't want to be late, go and let me know what happens as soon as you come home. Come home right away. So I went to the meeting thinking, okay, I'm glad that you're hanging all this on a bird, Mom, but whatever. I went and I met with him, and he walked me to his office from the lounge outside, and he closed the door, and he's like, there's some things I wanted to point out to you that you could have said in one of your papers. And I'm thinking, that was like a semester ago, buddy. Like, I've since been graded and got the paper back. I have it here. Your handwriting on it. It's been logged. It's in like central office at the registrar. The grade's done. But I didn't argue. I was like, okay. He's like, let's take a little field trip. He walks me to the library across campus. Takes me to this section with all of the books and literature from the courses that were English lit that he taught. And it's funny because all this did was make me hate Robert Frost. I can't say I ever really felt any kind of way about Robert Frost, but we had a course that he must have had a thing for Robert Frost, and we had to do a lot of Robert Frost poetry and explications and things like that. And although at the time I didn't mind doing the work, that's what he brought up, was this one Robert Frost work. and it was The Road Less Traveled. And all I could think was like, miles to go before I sleep was what was in my head. And I thought, yeah, this is a road less traveled because most people don't have to go through this. Why are you making me travel it? Like, what's your issue? I hate Robert Frost, and I never felt that way before, but after this, I would. Takes me to this, back then it was microfiche, and you had to like find the book and then go get the book because we had these edifices that had books in them called libraries before you went to the internet. So you couldn't really find much on a computer at that time. So we go to the stack and we find the actual compendium, and then we go get the books, and he takes out like 3 big books, and he opens up to The Road Less Traveled, and he opens up to Robert Frost, and he reads like some passages out loud, and he's like, what do you think of this, and what about that, and what does this mean to you, and did you miss this, and you mentioned this and this, but did you not think about this part, and how come you never really dove deep into that? And I'm like, why are you asking me this now? And if you didn't like it, like, why didn't you question it at that point? And then it hit me. It really had nothing to do with the work. It really had nothing to do with Robert Frost. It really had nothing to do with my explication of said poetry or works. It was his interpretation personally of what was going on in his life, that he got left, that he was, in fact, the road less traveled, that this woman left him and went on with someone else. And it was a colleague, and I guess it bothered him, But, again, nothing to do with me. So I was like, yeah, I guess you could have looked at it this way or that way, but I was trying for the less known theory, just because it was a play on The Road Less Traveled. Like, why do people always kind of act like sheep and go do the one thing? If you take The Road Less Traveled, like, you never know what adventures could befall you. If you're the lead lion, the lead dog, then your scene changes. And he looked at me and he's like, you're right. You're right. Thank you for saying that to me. I think I understand now. And I'm like, okay, don't know what I did. And he closed up all the books. We returned them. We walked back to his office. He said nothing. I am freaking out because I don't know what's going to happen. And when we returned, he sat across from me and sat on his desk, did something quick on a computer, scribbled something on a piece of paper, looked up to me, folded his hands, and said, I will definitely recommend you for graduation at this point. I'm sorry that it had to take so long. There were some complications. Yeah, invented ones by you. But I didn't say anything. I bit my tongue, as I normally don't do. But it worked in this case. And he said, you're a very good student, and you deserve everything that you accomplished. And I was glad I could be a part of it. Thanks. And he stood up, he shook my hand, wished me well. And that was it. 3 hours later, I went home immediately, told Mom, who was immediately like, I told you so. I knew. Thanks, Mom. But I still didn't have an official word other than him. And then about 3 hours after that, I got a phone call from the registrar, the secretary, everybody saying, yep, you're good. Your diploma's been released. You're definitely graduating. Everything will be fine. And I was like, whew. And I remember thinking, go little birdie. So that little bird has always stuck with me. And to this day, whatever the situation, I look for birds. If a bird lands nearby, it could be as simple as having a melancholy moment and feeling sad, or something horrific just happened. I kind of look around and I kind of look for birds. And if a bird's nearby, or a bird lands on my car or near a branch or whatever, I kind of look for the sight there in that bird. I look for the good thing, the good moment with that bird, thinking, what are you telling me, buddy? Like, what little messenger situation are you telling me? Are you just giving me some hope, or are you telling me it's all going to be okay? And I guess I put a lot on that bird, but Mom did, so I don't feel bad with it. And the little birdie told me, literally, and people joke like, oh, the little birdie told me that, or a little birdie told me that you did this or that. And it's just funny. Carrier pigeons aside, it really stuck with me. And here we are, 25 years later, still looking for the little birdie. And that one never left me. If you like this type of content, scare the like button into turning blue and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching.